Jefferson curls, okay, and this is an extreme way of fixing it. Bloody hell, will it work? Otherwise you do negatives, guys. Just do negatives of handstand presses. Land softly on your butt. Yo, what's going on, guys? Rhys here from More Than Lifting with the More Than Lifting podcast. Conversations about calisthenics, bodyweight training, gymnastics, all that good stuff. I'm Rhys, a personal trainer from the UK and founder of morethanlifting.com. And in this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about breaking down skills for isolated development. All right, because skills are busy. Yes, there's a lot of muscle, a lot of mental, and a lot of concentration going on. Yeah, there's a lot happening in skills. There's so much going on in skills that it takes a lot out of you. All right, and to be able to progress skills, because there's so much going on, learning them can be really hard because you can only do so many progressions in a workout before you just can't do anymore, especially when you're just starting out. Sometimes one tiny little thing interferes. Yeah, so say your shoulders give out first, or your core gives out first, or your hips and your hip flexors, or your wrists. You know, grip and wrists is a big one, especially in like hanging lever skills, things like front lever, back lever. Your wrists go a lot, and you just can't seem to hold on anymore. And that's a big problem, yeah, because it stops you from being able to progress faster. So the question then is, how can you get past this? How can you go around not training your wrists or not training your core when you're trying to learn lever skills? All right, and we do that by breaking it down into smaller bits. Yes. How do we train our skills in smaller bits? We break them down into smaller bits. Pretty simple. So when you break down a skill, you're looking for ways that you can work the same movement or a similar movement. A lot of them are holds, so maybe you're working like a dynamic variation of a hold. And the idea is that you're not doing the full skill. Yeah, you're just doing a part of it so that you can just train that bit. It's similar to how weight training works. Yeah, so your bodybuilders, they don't come and do just total body exercises all the time because, like, they don't. All right? Because sometimes they want to like just work on that bit of their bicep or this like part of your delt or whatever. It's like very isolated training. And so what they do is they take like one movement pattern, like a pull exercise, and they break it down, like a pull movement, pull exercise, like a pull movement, and then they break it down into smaller parts. So instead of doing like rows, you're doing just bicep curls, or you're doing just some kind of back flexion type thing. I don't really know what they do, but maybe that's a shit example. I don't know. But the point is that you're taking your whole skill and then you're breaking it down into smaller bits so that you can work each of the little bits individually. So like with your L-sit, maybe the problem with your L-sit is your shoulder mobility. So instead of trying to do loads of L-sits all the time because your core, your hip flexors, your quads even might start cramping, you get really worn out and you just won't be able to do it anymore. Instead, work on your shoulder mobility separately. Yeah, I know it's pretty genius, but like you might struggle to do this, okay? And a lot of people don't even think to do this, even though it's kind of obvious. This is how you fit in, this is how all the supportive exercises work when you're doing your skill training. Because a lot of there are loads of exercises that work the same muscles, in different ways. And if you take an exercise that needs your arms to go in a certain direction and for your core to support it, like a front lever, like a back lever, but you struggle with the shoulder part, then you just got to really work on your shoulders and then skill times, right? So let's have a look at that, because I'm just starting to ramble already. So a front lever. Go with the front lever. This one's an isometric skill. Obviously, we know what a front lever is. Actually, for those who don't, even though I talk about them all the time, I'm not some front lever fanatic or anything like that. It's just a good example for a lot of skills. So, for a lot of explanations, because it's really hard. Front levers are difficult. So, a front lever. A front lever is when you're hanging under the bar and you're facing up horizontally. Yeah, so you hold yourself horizontal under the bar. That's flat. and instead of like a dead hang where you're vertical, you're horizontal, and you're facing up towards the bar. Yeah, so your hips are facing, your core and your chest and your head all facing up towards the bar. All right, a back lever's the other way round, where you're horizontal to the ground, but you're facing down towards the floor. Yeah, so you're the other way round. Yeah, so front lever. A front lever, obviously, grip, shoulders, core, hips, quads, even that. These are all very important parts. They're very important parts of your lever. All right, maybe not quads so much. I just always think of quads because I've been talking. Right, basically, right, what I've been doing. Oh, here you go. Is a little secret, little trait for you. I've been working on this like program for LSITs, and in this LSIT program, we've been talking a lot about mobility and a lot about quads. Okay, because mobility is really important with LSIT, and everyone gets cramp in their quads when they're learning to do this stuff because they spend so much time trying to point their toes and hold their legs straight. You know, their quads are constantly tight and engaged, and when you combine that with like the hip flexion and the core tension in your LSIT, that's like a recipe for cramping. So I keep saying quads and stuff. Sorry about that, guys. All right, don't hold it against me. Actually, more about that LSIT stuff in the back. I won't get distracted now. So, yeah, so there's lots of stuff happening in the front lever, all right? But the front lever, it takes so much like total body strength and control that it's very difficult to train for an entire session because there's so much going on. There's 1,000 different muscles that could potentially get overly fatigued and then not be able to support that part of the movement. And that means, sad times, no more front levers that session. All right, but if we take that skill and we break it down into little pieces, like you think core strength, all right, so what can I do for my core strength? Flutter kicks, dragon flags, you know. These, we can look at those exercises and go, oh, they will support me in progressing towards that skill. Remember in the episode where we said sometimes you can't just hit progression exercises when you're doing skills. I think it was like problem with just hitting progressions. What episode was that? Maybe like 57, I'm going to say. I'm just going to leave that in there and see. We'll see if I was right. I can't check right now. So anyway, it's the episode's called like the problem with just hitting progression exercises. That's what it's called. I don't know what episode number it is. Check it out anyway. In that, I'm talking about how you fatigue like this, all right? And how you get so worn out doing skills that you can't do stuff. So you can do supportive exercises as well, instead of just hitting your progressions, just relying on those progressions to help bridge the gap. To help bridge the gap between your progressions, for a start, and to help bridge the gap between progressing and achieving a skill. Yeah, winning, getting that full lay. Yeah, or whatever the skill is, the full version of the skill. So if we break that down, you got core strength, you got shoulder strength, particularly it's levering down into your hips. Yeah, because when you're doing a front lever, you got the easiest way to think about it to be able to help you pull your hips up, because a lot of people have saggy hips and doing front levers. The best way to think about that isn't pushing your hips up so much as it is pressing your shoulders down. So you're trying to put your hands in your pockets from on top of the bar. Yeah? So you're pulling that, levering as hard as you can, levering that bar down into your hips. All right. So that's just one way to think of it. All right. So, but what I mean that shows is that movement is actually levering down. Yeah. So you're levering down with your shoulders when you're doing this. And so what exercise can you do that kind of combines those two together? Hanging leg raises, tuck raises as well, kind of. If it's a more of a lower level version, like full like tuck toe taps are a great one, especially for like finishers or something. If you're hitting your front levers, because you can do that loads and it'll rinse your shoulders so bad, and do your core as well. And you think you're training your grip. It's like a dynamic variation of your regular tuck lever, so you got those like, and then another one you can do is like tuck lever raises. So you just lever into your tuck instead of doing like full toe taps or just tuck raises or whatever. just work on staying in that tuck position and then that shoulder lever. So what you're doing here is you're not using your full extension or as good as you can. You're just staying in a tuck. You can do this with like a single leg or like an advanced tuck or a half lay or a straddle. You can do, or even just a front lever, but then you're not really using it to fill the gap. But you know what I mean? It's not necessarily just tuck levers that you do this for, but generally it's better to do a super low level because that level is still very difficult anyway, especially when you're doing like finishes. But so it still has a massive benefit, and you're actually simulating the exact movement just on like with a shorter lever. So that's the equivalent of when you're doing weight training for you to just drop your weights. So you just do less weight. Instead of doing full lever, you do tuck lever. That's like half in your weight, okay, half in whatever your weight is. Okay, it's not the equivalent, and that maths doesn't work out like at all. So don't try and quote me on that shit. But just in terms of imagining how that works, so it's like doing a 50 kilo shoulder press instead of a 100 kilo shoulder press or whatever, like a military press, but you know what I mean. So, but that's not it. You're not just limited to those. Those are great because they do your shoulders and they do your core together, but you can do like flutter kicks, like I've already said. You can do flutter kicks off the bench. So if you're on a bench with flutter kicks, you can have your bum sticking out over the end, and this like really does your core more, because what it allows you to do is move past that just above horizontal, call it horizontal for argument's sake, range of motion. If you're doing them on the floor, you've got to do flutter kicks where your legs only come up. But when you're doing flutter kicks off a bench, you're up a couple of inches off the ground, so you can extend that range of motion to actually have your legs go down below you, below horizontal. So it means you have an increased range of motion, which makes them better. So off the back of that, we've also got dragon flags, which I also said before, and these are great because you can do these are like a whole skill of themselves, but you can do them like on a bench or on the floor, or if you've got something to hold on to, if you're doing it down the gym or down the bars or down the park or whatever, then that's great. What I wouldn't recommend really is that you were doing these like up in the air, like a dragon flag, because like you're going to put a lot of stress on your shoulders, you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to wear yourself out. You probably are going to struggle with it anyway, because it's like that with the front lever as well. It's just the only difference between a dragon flag and your front lever, it really is your shoulder strength, because your core tension across your body and your legs is there. So really that's your weak point, But dragon flags are awesome anyway. Then what else have we got? We got scapular pulls. So this will help you really work that shoulder positioning. So if you think like scapular pulls, but in your scapular pull, when you come up, if you lean back as well, and what this helps you do is to like get your shoulders in the right place. So this is great. Let me just adjust my mic, sorry. That's better. So what was I saying? Scapular pulls, So when you get to the top of your scapular pull, if you lean back as well, this helps simulate kind of levering your back up into the front lever position. So you can kind of lean back, and this helps get your shoulder blades, you'll really feel this, like lock underneath your back. You'll really feel it happen. And this is great because it'll help you with your shoulder engagement a little bit, and your grip strength, and just general positioning with your shoulders. It'll help you learn that kind of almost hollow body position. And so that's really good as well. And the best thing is about this is that you're not tucking or coming up into the lever. So you're just working your shoulders then. Really, you're just working your shoulders. I mean, you are working like your upper mid back as well or whatever, but like it's your shoulders, all right? So stop arguing. So another one you can do then is think, right, so what if I take my front lever and just remove the hanging part? So like your flutter kicks, you're laid out on the floor, you do like a hollow body hold. This is essentially a front lever, like laying down instead of hanging. So shoulders up, feet up off the ground, keep it nice and low as you can. And the hollow body position is really good for front lever training, because it helps just train that whole anterior chain, which is what's really getting worked when you're doing your front levers. Then the next one is, what is that? Oh yeah, like an inverted hang. Oh mate, what am I like? So the next one's an inverted hang. And inverted hangs are great because they're like a front lever where you're just like upside down instead of horizontal. So your feet are up in the air, and you're upside, you know, in your head's thing, but you're hanging onto the bars with your hands, so the bars are just literally right up by your hips. And this is so much harder to do than you imagine. On the rings, it's easy because the rings go to your side, but when you're on a bar, the bar has to stay in front of you, or behind you, I guess, but in front of you. And this just means you're in that hollow body position. And so staying straight and tight is really good, because that is that is front lever position, just at the wrong angle. And you can just slowly work on coming down slowly over time as you get better. But honestly, just being in an inverted hang, like, it seems so simple. It's like, hey, a guy's just hanging upside down. But so much is working when we do these in the class. When I do the class on a Wednesday, and when we do them down there, like, everyone struggles. Everybody. The more advanced people, the less advanced people, people in the middle, everyone struggles with inverted hangs. So yeah, then another idea, right, is to take this skill down the gym. So down the gym, you can actually do things like using a cable machine to help work this, which is quite hard to do with like body weight stuff, because I mean, you can use like resistance bands. These are really good to do at home with a resistance band, but you can like stand on the cable machine and just work that straight arm shoulder flexion, whether it's like up, down. You can, obviously it's down for the front lever, you're pressing down, aren't you, levering down into the bar with your hips. So you can simulate that with low weights instead of hanging. And this is like, the cable machine is one of those things that's like really useful for calisthenics, I think. And yeah, if you have a gym membership, I don't, but if you do, then by all means use the cable machine, because you can use it for a lot of stuff, you know, like muscle up training on the rings. On the rings on the cable machine is really good, because it's similar to the rings. It's really similar. And yeah, great. So front levers. All right, so I've rambled a lot about front levers, but if you take an isometric skill and you break it into parts, you think about little parts that you're trying to work, you can get like dynamic exercises out of that you can then train when you can't train your skill anymore. Yeah, so these are supportive exercises. So if you're doing front lever training and then you're doing like your foundation tricep afterwards, so if you follow that kind of one workout framework, check out that podcast episode if you haven't, the one workout framework, which is basically a way to do all your calisthenics training like in one session. All right, so you front load your skills, because that's the hardest shit, your front lever stuff. So you do your front lever stuff first. As you start to fatigue, you're like, right, that's enough of that. Turning that skill training into strength sessions then. So you do like your foundation tricep, all right, which is your pulls, your dips, and your leg raises. Now, leg raises are really good for front lever training, because you're working all the bits. Yeah, it's all anterior chain. So you're working that shoulder strength, that lever skill. Especially if you're going right up to the bar like you should be doing. Yeah, none of those half reps, none of those L-sits. So you're working that shoulder press, you're working that core tension, your hip flexors. Like, leg raises are great, but then you got your strength stuff, your basic movement patterns, your dips and your pulls. Like, how can you try and work them into your front levers? You can go, okay, so what if I did like tuck front lever pull-ups, you know? So then you do them, and then you got your dips, and you think, oh, what can I do for like dips that would help support my front lever? And off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything, to be honest with you, but I mean, you could do scapular dips. That's not comparable. That doesn't count. What would actually be quite good though is like Russian dips would be quite good, because they're just really difficult. And so that would probably be quite a good idea, maybe. I don't know. The thing is, like, your front lever, that is more of like, it's more similar to a pull exercise than it is to like a push exercise. So front lever pulls, they work, yeah, but front lever dips don't, you know. So like a lever, a way of progressing with the levers, like breaking down that lever, you don't really end up with a lot of push options, really. Now, you could say it's very much like, they're very similar to the planche in a way, of front lever. So you could say doing like some planche push-ups or tuck planche push-ups or something like that would be comparable to doing your front lever pulls, tuck planche push-ups. That would be quite a good balance, in my opinion, anyway. And that might well help a lot with your front lever. I don't know. I haven't tested that, you know. because no, I haven't. So, but I say all this and like it's not a decent answer, but that's a good way of thinking. Oh yeah, I can work. I could be doing 2 skills at once. You know, you could be learning your front lever and your planche together, doing something like front lever pulls and planche push-ups. Like because they are of a comparable level of strength and skill and conditioning, like they'd be great to stick together. Anyway, enough rambling about the front lever because I feel like I've been talking about it for 10 minutes. I probably have. So that's isometric skills, okay? We basically change them into different dynamic kind of variations. We try and take elements out of the skill and turn them in and try and just do what's left, like with a hollow body hold or something like that. But with dynamic skills, it's a bit different because often it's quite difficult to work that transition. And what I mean is, like, look at a handstand press. So with a handstand press, you're levering from like folded in half. You're just levering straight up into a handstand. All right, so this is a very difficult skill. All right, it takes shoulder strength, wrist strength and mobility. It takes handstand chops. It takes hip strength and lower back strength and hamstring mobility and all sorts of stuff going on. It takes confidence and like general kind of trap strength because you need to get your head past your hands, like further forward than your hands to be able to do a press because it counterbalances your weight. And that's how you do it, basically. So it needs it, all right? So with this, it's difficult to kind of break it down in a lot of ways because there are certain ways you can progress with like negatives or like half kind of raised presses, which are where you like stand on a curb or like some foam blocks or something, and then so you can reach further down to the ground. You're like bent over a bit more, and then just practice the levering up. Like you can do that. So we'll probably do an episode on handstand presses at some point. That'd be quite good because I love handstand presses. They're great, and and they're difficult and they're fun, and you can do them anywhere. And yeah, so you should learn them. You could do your negatives, like I said. You can do like wrist mobility stuff to kind of work that, but like unless you're kind of in your handstand press range, it's quite difficult to break that down. So you can work your shoulder strength. We already know this, all right, but how do you work that kind of press strength? So one thing that I'd recommend you do is you can say, right, I need to get my head in front of my hands. So do like wall support handstands. Okay, it feels like you're stepping back a bit, but do a wall support handstand with your hands further away from the wall, all right? Not far, but what it means is you lean, you like banana back over to get your feet onto the wall just to be supported in the first place. And then what you do is you plant your bum against the wall, so your bum's up against the wall and you're doing like almost a hollow back kind of thing. And then you lean forward with your head as well. And this will probably like you're probably best to turn your hands out a little bit, but you can press your whole back up against the wall. And then from there, you can just lean down, do a negative from there. Yeah, so what you're doing is you're removing the need for that control and stability in leaning forwards by using the wall to support you and still be able to work that movement, breaking it down. All right, so you're just isolating that element of the skill so that then you can do it, basically. So you can train it. And once you can do that really well, you'll find you'll be better at getting into that freestanding, just like with any other skill. So that's a really good way of working your wrists and your confidence and strength in going into that position. You can do your hips with like seated leg raises or lay-in leg raises. You can do L-sit supported kind of stuff, which would be great. But it's more your lower back. Well, it is a lot of core. I always get cramps doing handstand press. I always get cramp in my core, like in my abs, which is really unusual. And it's so hard to deal with as well. Like, how do you stretch that? You know what I mean? Just even doing like cobras and stuff, just never feel like it's getting stretched because it is a nightmare getting cramp in your abs. But you need to work that lower back. So you can do like hollow bodies, hollow body kind of hold. Hollow bodies, what am I on about? You can do like a hollow body on your belly, like a Superman hold or something like that it's called. But it's basically like your hollow body position, like the other way around. So your chest's up off the ground and your feet are up off the ground. and that's really good. But to take it another level, you can do that on a bench or like a box or something. And what that'll help you do is actually work the dynamic movement. So you can then just raise your legs together, and that'll work your lower back, your glutes, and all sorts. You can then do that like on all fours, like those like donkey kick things you see people doing. That you can do stuff like that too. That's a great idea. That'll do your hips, your lower back. As for hamstring mobility, this is quite a difficult one because you need a lot of hamstring mobility, and a lot of people it's terrible. That's the truth. So it can take a really long time to get good at this if you have to work on that stuff. But you have the option of things like Jefferson curls, okay, and this is an extreme way of fixing it, but bloody hell will it work. And the Jefferson curls basically where you stand up, you raise yourself off the ground, like on a bench down the gym, you grab a barbell and you start standing like you would for like at top of your deadlift kind of position. So your bar's just relaxed down by your hips, and then keeping your legs straight, you just roll the bar down your legs, basically, not necessarily contacting your legs, but you just follow it down your legs. So you fold your back curls up all the way down until you kind of come out and you're up, your bar goes past your feet and you're as low as you can get. And the weight actually pulls you down harder. And this is a great exercise just for strength, but this is also really good for handstand and press mobility. Because you're not just stretching, you're using the weight to stretch everything out, Really, really good. Other options are things like downward dogs, like you can do like the weird walking one, where you kind of, you straight one heel, then the other, then the other, then the other. You can do it where you kind of start in a push-up and then you walk up into like a pike position and then you walk back down and then you walk back up. You can just practice touching your toes or planting your hands on the floor next to your feet. Another one is to squat down and place your hands on the floor and then keep your hands flat and straight, stick your bum in the air and just straighten your legs as much as you can. And this is really going to give you an idea of how far away you are from a handstand press, because unless your legs are straight, you're going to find it difficult. All right. So that's about it. Otherwise, you do negatives, guys. Just do negatives of handstand presses. So, guys, this has been a rambly one just because there's been so much to cover. It's been ages, like 25, 28 minutes, something like that. But that is it for this episode, all right? Break down your skills. You don't just have to train skills as skills. You don't have to just hit progressions like we said before. You can actually break down a skill into little bits, like a muscle up. Yeah, you got your pull-ups, you got your dips, you got that transition. So you can practice single bar dips, you can practice push-ups, like when you can't do muscle up negatives or whatever anymore. And then you can work that transition just practicing on a low bar, like a dipping bar. Just practice going from like the upper part, the isometric hold, and just going as slowly as you can, getting your elbows from above the bar to below the bar and try and stay up on the dipping bar. The worst that's going to happen is you kind of slip down and you extend your arms and you land softly on your bum. All right, but that's another. I can't believe I didn't say that. That's simple. It's so simple to explain. I would have saved myself half hour. Right, that is it for this episode, guys. If you're training skills, think of how you can break them down and work individual elements and not just rely on doing progression exercises all the time. All right, because progression exercises are great, but they leave loads of holes in your training that actually make it difficult to achieve the skill if you're not doing other stuff as well. All right, guys, if you like what you heard, as always, give us a like, subscribe, rate in, review, honest 5-star one, obviously, wink, wink, and share us with your mates and training partners. If you want to reach out to me, if you've got any comments, questions, or whatever, at More Than Lifting everywhere on the socials, or the best place is probably Instagram. Just DM me and we can have a conversation. That's all right. Also, that LSIT thing. So I'm working on this LSIT program and it's basically done, kind of. And over the next couple of weeks, as I just tighten it up a bit, I'm looking for a couple of people to go through and beta test it. All right, I've got a few guys who have already gone through like the 12-week program and stuff like that who are going to be beta testing it. If I haven't reached out to you and you've bought one of my products off me before, just like give me a message, because for whatever reason I've just missed you off my list or whatever. So just reach out to me and you get it, obviously. And if you want to join up, if you want to be part of the beta testing group, then that's great. Like, by all means, join in and just give me a little message on Instagram. I'm going to set up a page on the website and I'll send you a link to that. If you're listening to this in a week or two, then just go to morganlifting.com/beta. All right, and if you go to morganlifting.com/beta, then there'll be a way you can sign up for it there. All right. Otherwise, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, keep in touch with yourselves, and I will speak to you in a couple of days. Bye.